It's still working. It's working. I don't like recorded music very much. I like live music because when I was recording, it was always live. I know it sounds weird for a recording artist to not like recorded music, but I like it as a living thing that changes all the time, and it's a plastic.
Linda Ronstadt remains one of the most talented and versatile performers in the music industry. She was an amazing interpreter of songs and had a way of making previously owned songs become her own with her voice. But Linda was more than a cover artist. Her performances cut across different genres, and she has sung every form of music there is: rock, jazz, country, rhythm and blues, gospel, opera, choral, and mariachi. Her style blended country music, rock and roll, pop music, and more. Although this earned her criticism from different angles, rock people thought she wasn't rock enough, folk people thought she was too pop, and country people thought she was a mix of too many genres. This never made Linda categorize herself into any genre. Her expressive vocal strength and soulful renditions gave life to the songs she covered, captivating her audiences and forming a deep connection with them. She knew the exact thing to add to or remove from a song to make it just perfect for listeners across the country. Some of her selections were from iconic songwriters like Jimmy Webb, Elvis Costello, Warren Zevon, Smokey Robinson, Jackson Browne, and many more. In fact, Linda has been praised for exposing a whole new generation to the music of the 1920s and 1930s, which had been overshadowed by the rise of rock and roll. Many of her covers became so popular that they overshadowed the original versions, boosting her recognition and position as a transformative artist in the industry. While some artists felt disgruntled by her increasing popularity from their own songs, many acknowledged the impact her covers had on their careers and credited her for helping their songs become big hits. When asked how he felt about Linda being the face of Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me, Warren Zevon replied, "I'll write the songs, Linda can make them hits." For Warren and many others, Linda's covers brought attention to their works and gave them the financial break and success that their own recordings never did. But the interesting thing about Linda is that despite achieving great success, recording over 32 albums, many of them award-winning and gold and platinum certified, she only wrote 3 of those songs: Try Me Again, Lo Siento Mi Vida, and Winter Light. When asked about why she didn't write more than 3 songs, Linda said, "Anybody can write a song, but it's really hard to write a good song. And it's almost impossible to write a great song. And I had people who were writing great songs around me." Linda was always clear about her position on songwriting. She knew she wasn't particularly gifted at writing, so she focused her attention on delivering memorable renditions and performances. Linda's love for music started at an early age, as music was a staple in her childhood. She grew up listening to her parents' collection of traditional Mexican and American songs, singing along to songs from the greats with her siblings and her parents. They all had a talent for music and were learning to play a musical instrument. Linda learned to play the guitar while her brother sang the soprano in the church choir. Her other siblings were also either drumming or singing too. At the age of 14, Linda started her professional singing career. She formed a band with her brother and sister, named themselves the Three Ronstadts, and played music at coffee houses, frat houses, and other small joints for about 3 years. They went around playing songs they grew up with: folk, country, bluegrass, and Mexican. During this time, Linda was going to school and doing all that was expected of a young Catholic girl. However, she wanted more. She wanted to make a fusion of folk music and rock and roll. So after 1 semester at Arizona State University, Linda dropped out of college and moved to Los Angeles with 30 borrowed dollars in her pocket and a simple word of advice from her father: never let anyone take your picture with your clothes off. LA was where her dreams took off. She joined Bobby Kimmel, whom she had first met while performing gigs back at home. Bobby was impressed by her voice and passion and had persuaded her to join his band in LA. Their band, which was a group of 3, was called the Stone Ponies. Bobby wrote and sang lead, while Kenny and Linda backed him up playing the guitar. Their folk rock sound made waves, and they soon started getting gigs to sing in small clubs in Hollywood. It was during this time that the band got signed with Capitol Records. where they recorded their first album titled The Stone Ponies. 5 months later, they recorded Evergreen, their second album from which they got their only hit song, Different Drum. The song's success eventually caused the band to split. Different Drum was originally recorded by the Stone Ponies trio, but the recording company pushed for Linda to be the leading vocal artist in the song, so they had it recorded without the other two band members. The new recording turned out to be a hit, but it also caused the breakup of the Stone Ponies, launching Linda's career as a solo artist. In 1969, Linda recorded her first solo album, Hand Sewn. Homegrown, but the songs didn't do too well. The following year, she released her second solo album, Silk Purse, from which she got her first Grammy nomination for the song Long Time. While looking for musicians to back her up during her Silk Purse tour, Linda realized she wasn't the only one experimenting with music in LA. It was there she came across a number of talented musicians who would later achieve greater success themselves. Her band included Jackson Browne, Neil Young, Don Henley, Glenn Frey, Bernie Leadon, and a handful of others. These guys were only put together as her backup band for the tour. But little did they know that their crossed paths would lead them to success. Linda had met Henley playing the drums at the Troubadour and hired him that night. She had also hired Glenn Frey as her guitarist. Glenn used to sing with her manager at the time, so recruiting him wasn't a problem. There was no money to put the members in separate rooms during the tours, so Glenn and Henley stayed together in the same room. It was there that they discovered the other was a good singer and writer. They started rehearsing together and found that they had really great songwriting ideas. They were joined by Bernie Leadon, Randy Meisner, and a pool of talented songwriters like Jackson Browne and Jack Temchin. The group toured with Linda and even played on her third album, which she titled Linda Ronstadt. By the end of the year, Henley, Glenn, Bernie, and Randy Meisner decided to form a band, which they named the Eagles. Henley would later speak of Linda as having a great impact on his music career and being a major factor in how the Eagles band was formed. Now, this story would not be complete without mentioning the iconic singer and songwriter Jackson Browne. Although Jackson did not join the Eagles band, he was and remains a major factor that contributed to Linda's successful career. Jackson was one of the few people she met while recruiting her backup band. He was 16 when they met and was the youngest of the pack, but Jackson was smarter and way more evolved in thinking at that age. He had already written his first song, These Days, and was already penning down a few more. Even though he never joined the Eagles band, Jackson maintained a cordial relationship with the band's members and Linda herself. In later years, the group would go on tours together, constantly alternating and adjusting the headliner depending on who had the bigger regional hit. In 1973, Linda, now 27, recruited Peter Asher as her producer and released her fourth solo album, Don't Cry Now. The 10-track album had a mix of country folk, country rock, and pop rock. It was Linda's first time exploring different genres within the same album. The album consisted mainly of cover tunes like Silver Threads and Golden Needles originally, recorded by Wanda Jackson in 1956. She also covered the Eagles' Desperado, Randy Newman's Sail Away, and Neil Young's I Believe in You, all of which were well received by critics and fans who thought Linda's vocals gave the songs a refreshing blend. The album also got her biggest break as the opening act on Neil Young's Time Fades Away tour, where she found herself touring bigger cities and playing in front of larger crowds than she was used to. Linda had initially gotten producer Peter Asher because she felt her music was evolving and needed someone willing to evolve with her as an equal. Little did she know that Peter came with the Midas touch. Every album she released after Don't Cry Now was hitting the country's top charts. Asher was exactly what she needed in a producer. He was more collaborative and on the same page with her than any of the other producers she had previously worked with. In 1974, she released Heart Like a Wheel, her final album with Capitol Records. Heart Like a Wheel was a hit from release. It quickly climbed up Billboard's Top 200 and spent 4 weeks on the chart as the #1 album in the United States. Every song on the album was a hit. Her cover of Hank Williams's I Can't Help It If I'm Still in Love with You reached #2 on Billboard's Hot Country Songs chart. The album earned Linda 4 Grammy nominations, including an Album of the Year nomination and a Grammy win for Best Country Vocal Performance for her cover of Hank Williams's I Can't Help It If I'm Still in Love with You. The album also earned Peter Asher a Grammy nomination for Producer of the Year. Every song selection on the album was a masterpiece that secured its place in the 2020 edition of Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time Heart. Like a Wheel was her platinum breakthrough album, but it wasn't her last. Her next release, Prisoner in Disguise, was another mainstream success, quickly climbing into the top 5 within its first 2 weeks of release and selling over 1 million copies that year. This was her second album in a row to go platinum. When her third album, Hasten Down the Wind, also hit #1 on the charts, Linda became the first female artist in music history to have 3 consecutive platinum albums. By 1978, Linda had released 6 consecutive platinum albums, all earning her multiple Grammy nominations and awards. The 1970s belonged to her. With all 6 albums consecutively reaching the top 10 on the U.S. album charts, she became a top-grossing act and was racking up more fans than any of her female counterparts. Simple Dreams, her 8th album, became her most successful, gaining international recognition and cementing her status as the most successful female rock and country star of the time. It was also then that her image became as popular as her music. She started appearing on the covers of Rolling Stone and Time magazines as America's best-known female rock singer. By the end of 1978, Linda had 6 platinum-certified albums, all of which were in the top 10 on Billboard's album chart. She was selling out concerts in stadiums and arenas, hosting thousands of fans and becoming the highest-paid female act in rock at the time. She had made a name for herself as a leading act in the male-dominated rock world, an unprecedented feat, and was named, alongside top talents like Joni Mitchell and Carly Simon, as one of the Queens of Rock. In 1980, Linda released Mad Love, a rock and roll album that became her 7th consecutive platinum album after entering Billboard's top 5 in its first week of release. Her subsequent releases between 1980 and 1990 were back-to-back hits, making Billboard's top 20 and selling millions of copies in their first years of release. Linda's 3 biggest-selling albums to date remain Simple Dreams, 1977, What's New, 1983, and Cry Like a Rainstorm, Howl Like the Wind, 1989. We could go on and on about Linda's record-breaking hits and success, but let's take a quick look into her relationship with some of the most talented singers of her time. In 1978, Linda made an attempt to collaborate with Dolly Parton and Emmylou Harris. She was a big admirer of their work and had even covered Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You on her 1975 album. The trio were longtime friends and admirers of each other's work, so working on a project together wouldn't have been a problem, or so they thought. Unfortunately, their plan didn't work out for over 8 years due to conflicting time schedules. According to Linda, everyone was too involved with their careers. Finally, in January 1986, the 3 made their way into a recording studio where they spent the next few months working on their combined project, which they named Trio. Trio was released in 1987, quickly dominating the #1 position on Billboard's album chart for 5 weeks and selling millions of copies in the U.S. Fans of the 3 artists called it a long-awaited collaboration of 3 celestial songbirds. The album's success earned them a Grammy Award for Best Country Performance by a duo or group with vocal. It was also nominated for Album of the Year alongside industry greats like Michael Jackson, Prince U2, and Whitney Houston. The album was later inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1999. The women attempted a follow-up to their award-winning trio, but conflicting schedules stalled the album's release again. 5 years later, they released Trio 2, a follow-up to their first project. The album was another major success, winning them a Grammy Award for Best Country Collaboration with Vocals and a nomination for Best Country Album that same year. In 1999, Linda reunited with the Eagles and Jackson Browne for a New Year's Eve performance in Los Angeles. In 2000, her contract with Asylum Records ended, but she still continued to release songs and duets with other talented artists up until 2011, when she announced her retirement. In August 2013, the legendary singer revealed during an interview that she had Parkinson's disease and could no longer sing a note. The diagnosis was later reevaluated to be progressive supranuclear palsy, a neurodegenerative disease with symptoms similar to Parkinson's. As for how she discovered she could no longer sing, Linda recalled recording with Emmylou in 2000. She was trying to harmonize Jackson Browne's For a Dancer when she heard a loud screech in her throat. She had her fears, but her throat doctor assured her that she was fine. Pictures of her vocal cords showed that everything was fine, but within her, Linda could feel her voice slipping away. Now 78 years old, Linda lives in San Francisco with her 2 children, Mary and Carlos, whom she adopted in 1990 and 1994, respectively. She never got married, despite having high-profile romantic relationships, including one with the then governor of California, Jerry Brown. In 2014, a year after her diagnosis, Linda was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Tucson Convention Center in Tucson, Arizona, was also renamed the Linda Ronstadt Music Hall in her honor. By 2019, Linda had released over 30 studio albums and had also appeared on over 120 albums by a wide range of multi-talented artists. She has received a total of 11 Grammy Awards, 3 American Music Awards, an Emmy Award, and an Alma Award. She has also received nominations for a Tony Award and the International Golden Globe Award. Many of her albums have been certified gold or platinum in the United States and around the globe. Linda also received a joint star with Dolly Parton and Emmylou Harris on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for their work on the Trio project. She was among 5 individuals who received the 2019 Kennedy Center Honors for their lifetime achievements and contributions to American culture. She also received an honorary doctorate of music degree from the Berklee College of Music for her achievements and influence in music and her contributions to American and international culture. Reflecting on her journey with music, Linda admitted to never thinking that her singing style would be heavily influenced by the music she grew up with. During an interview, she revealed, "If I didn't hear it on the radio, or if my dad wasn't playing it on the piano, or if my brother wasn't playing it on the guitar or singing it in his boys' choir, or my mother and sister weren't practicing a Broadway tune or a Gilbert and Sullivan song, then I can't do it today. It's as simple as that. All of my influences and my authenticity are a direct result of the music played in that Tucson living room." Linda further went on to say, "I don't record any music genre that I didn't hear in my family's living room before I was 10. It's just my rule that I don't break, because I can't do it authentically. I really think that our brain is hardwiring and soaking things up until the age of maybe 12 or 10. Then it reduces, and there are certain things we can't learn in an authentic way after that.